already have had the backgrounder and the concise overview of Indonesia and its literature in its totality, let us now jump over to the selected text that we will tackle. First, we have Everybody Has His Burden. This is a widely known and a popular Indonesian folklore. So let's read the summary or the synopsis. So a mango tree laments about the heavy burden it carries as it struggles to support its trunk, branches, leaves, and fruit. Each part of the tree complains about their own hardships, with the trunk fearing for its safety during strong winds, and the leaves protecting the tree from the sun and harsh weather. The fruit living in constant fear of being eaten or discarded, and however, the root of the tree reminds them all that they depend on it for their survival, and that they must consider each other's feelings before taking action. This tale serves as a metaphor for the importance of considering the perspective of all parties involved in any situation, as demonstrated by traditional Batak beliefs. So Everybody Has His Burden is a folktale about an argument that happened or arise rather among the root, the trunk, the branches, the leaves, and the fruits of a very beautiful tree admired by the passers-by. It all started when a voice, which is from the roof, from beneath, cried out its complaint and said how heavy its burden was. The branch didn't accept what it heard. It also defended its agony and acclaimed itself as the most burdened part of the tree, but the argument between them was heard by the other parts. Thus, each laid their complaints and burden, but all ended with the root saying, "All of you depend on me. If I don't exist, all of you will not be here. If I'm sick, then there will be no trunk, no leaves, and no fruit. I have to work hard for all of you, looking for all the food that you all need. Have you thought of me who has to do so much, all of you? Do you think only of your feelings? Human beings by nature complaints. And we see the dark clouds more than the light the sun still gives when it's raining in the morning. Nobody says, even the sun is hidden behind those clouds, I can still see things because of it. But rather, when will this rain be totally over? I am pissed. But when the sunny season comes, we start complaining again of how irritating the weather is. We already see ourselves an object of pity, even when it's just a matter of pea-size problem. We groan when things go out of our plan. We sometimes became fastidious, panicky, and or at rare times just as inconsiderate and insensitive as ever. Our self-centeredness often causes blindness in our hearts that make the most belittled be forgotten. This simple yet striking folktale of our Filipino or our fellow Indonesians wants us to be as sympathetic as a feeling being should be. And although not mentioned in the story, we should not also forget that there is one who sacrificed a lot, shed more blood, and belittled by others and yet never complained, and that is Jesus. He was like the root without the complaints that carried the full load upon his shoulder, and that we need to do and all that we need to do is widen our shallow cranium and suspend ourselves and our self-centeredness. With that, we can surely understand why we carry the burden that God allows us to have. For everything, as the most used saying goes, has its own reason for existence. So to extract the substance of this folktale that integrates something important, here's a story of a saint that dreamed about God. So this is another story. He once complained to the highest that his load was too heavy for him. The Lord then let him enter to 3 different rooms where he could get 3 different crosses, of which he would choose from. The burden he would carry from then on. In the first room, he found a cross so big and so heavy that he could not lift even for an inch of it. He left the room for the second one where he found a very small and light cross. He also left the room for he believed it was too light for him. When he entered the third room, there he found a cross of an average size and of average weight. So he chose the third one as the best, not too heavy and not too light. When he went out of the room carrying the cross upon his shoulder, He told God that it was one he preferred. God then smiled and said, "The cross you have chosen is the same cross you are complaining about." That's the moral of the story. The message is clear: patience, humility, and contentment. So, what a wonderful story, or what a wonderful folk tale everyone has his burden is. And with that, let's now proceed to the other story we are assigned to report. And first, before proceeding to the story itself, let's first have a backgrounder of the famous author Pramoedia Anantatuwer, who was born on 1925 until 2006. So Pramoedia Anantatuwer is an Indonesian author. He experienced the Dutch colonial era and lived through the Japanese occupation of Indonesia during World War II. He became involved in leftist political activities and joined the cultural organization Lektra. His involvement with leftist movement led to his imprisonment by the Indonesian government in the 1960s. The Buro Quartet consists of four novels written while Pramoedia was imprisoned on the island of Buru. The novels comprising This Earth of Mankind, Child of All Nations, Footsteps, and House of Glass. And he received several literary awards, including the Magsaysay Award in the year 1995, and he is remembered as a literary icon and a symbol of resistance against oppression. So Pramoedia is an Indonesian author that was born in the year 1925 until 2006. So Pramoedia, whose first name means first in the fray, was born on the island of Java in 1925. He is the eldest child of a prominent headmaster, and in 1945 he took part in Indonesia's revolt against the Dutch rule. And in 1947 he was jailed for 2 years for carrying anti-Dutch documents. While in prison, he wrote his first novel, The Fugitive, about the struggle against colonialism, which established his reputation and launched an extraordinary literary career. From 1950 to 1965, Pramoedia played an increasingly important role in Indonesian intellectual life. First as a member of the Lektra, the Institute of People's Culture, and later an editor of the Lintera or Lantern, the cultural section of the leftist paper Bintang Timur or the Eastern Star. Pramoedia advocated a new socially conscious Indonesian literature, and he was also one of the founders of the Multatuli Literature Academy and a teacher at the Dr. Abdul Rivai Academy for Journalism in Jakarta. Arrested during the Indonesian government's massive repression in 1965, Pramoedia was held as a political prisoner until 1979. Spending the last 10 years on the brutal Buru prison island, where he composed the Buro Quartet, of which This Earth of Mankind is the first novel. Now let's go over to the summary of the novel This Earth of Mankind. So in Pramoedia Anantatuwer's novel, This Earth of Mankind, the protagonist Mink falls in love with Annelies, the daughter of a Dutch family in colonial Java. Mink is initially hesitant about the Milena family due to his preconceived notions, but his friend advises him to get to know them before making a judgment. Mink discovers that Nyai, the mother of Annelies, is well educated and runs the successful family business. Mink develops a deep bond with Annelies, but her brother became jealous. One day, Mink was taken away by the police to be his father's translator at a ceremony. Upon his return, he suspects he is being followed by the Chinese man and learns that Robert has ordered his guard to kill him. He eventually returns to the Milena family when Annelies falls ill. The family doctor charges Mink with nursing Annelies back to health, as only his love can cure her. However, Herman Malema is found dead, and his son takes the family to court again to gain control of the business and of Annelies' future. Mink, Nyai, and their friends fight the courts, but they are powerless to change the decision. Anneliese is shipped to the Netherlands, and her marriage with Mink is ruled invalid due to her lack of legitimacy and non-Christian marriage. The novel ends with Njai and Mink watching Anneliese sail away. So for our analysis, we have the social class and colonialism. We have the line humanity too often clasped with just one hands. Lines depicting the stark contrast between the privileged Dutch colonial rules and the oppressed native Indonesians. They reveal deep-seated social class divisions. The issues depicted in the novel explores the impact of colonialism on the social structure, illustrating how powerful and how privileged the concentrated Dutch was, leading to exploitation and subjugation of the native population. So the line humanity too often clasped with just one hand from the novel, This Earth of Mankind, by Pomoedia Anantertuer, is a metaphorical expression highlighting the imbalance, injustice, and the lack of harmony in human actions and interactions. So in the context of the novel, this line may be interpreted as a commentary about the unequal power dynamics, the social injustices, and the systematic issues prevalent in the society depicted. The metaphor suggests that for true progress or positive change to occur, there needs to be a collective effort, a balanced and harmonious collaboration between different elements or groups within the humanity. Clapping with just one hand symbolizes an incomplete or ineffective response, emphasizing the need for unity, empathy, and mutual understanding to address societal challenges. This line may also be seen as a broader commentary on the human condition, urging individuals to consider the consequences of their action and work toward a more equitable and just world. It encapsulates a call for societal introspection and a recognition of the interconnectedness of human experiences. So, we also have descriptions of clashes between European and the Indonesian cultures, including language differences and cultural misunderstandings, which highlights the struggle for cultural identity. So, this novel delves into the tension between the Western, which is from the Dutch, and the indigenous cultures of the Indonesian community, exploring how this clash influences the characters' identities and shapes the broader societal dynamics, as well as their perception of who they really are, because there really is a struggle for cultural identity throughout the novel. So we also have education and social mobility. So lines that detail the protagonist's journey through the colonial education system underscores the limited opportunities available to native Indonesians for social advancement. The issues depicted in the novel addresses the discriminatory nature of education under colonial rule, highlighting how systemic barriers prevented many Indonesians from achieving social mobility and accessing equal opportunities. So, putting it in the Philippine context, during the Spanish colonization, education too was not given fairly among all the Filipino folks, because only the privileged and those people who have connections or are rich can be educated. So we also have resistance and nationalism. So of course, there are a lot of lines that reflects characters' resistance to colonial oppressions and expressions for nationalist sentiment, illustrating the burgeoning spirit of independence. So by the way, these things that I have just stated are somewhat the concepts or the themes that arises greatly or majorly in the novel. So the resistance and nationalism explored in the novel the rising tide of nationalism and characters that grapple with their identity and the injustices of the colonial rule, leading to a growing awareness of the need for a collective resistance and self-determination. Next, we have the natives are consistently portrayed as the social group who is denied, inferior in comparison to the Europeans who contributes to their oppression. So the two characters that represents this attribute are Nyai Ontosoro and Meek. So Nyai Ontosoro is described as a formidable native woman. As stated in this line, this Nyai Ontosoro who was talked about by so many people. She is considered to be inferior to the Europeans because of her looks and her affair with Herman. I saw the backwards of the natives around me. I didn't mix very much with Europeans. So overall, this novel speaks so much about the realities during the context wherein the Indonesia or Indonesian was colonized by Dutch, and Promoedia tour really put into proper context the realities that arises during that situation. And overall, this novel really speaks so much about the realities and the harshness experienced by the native Indonesian while they are being colonized by the colonizer, which is the Dutch. So that ends our report. Thank you.